Thank you, everybody. Good evening, everyone. The town clerk informs me that we have a quorum, surprisingly, and I hereby call this special town meeting to order. My name is Dan Nason. It's an honor and privilege to serve as your moderator again for the 2026 special town meeting. This one's a little different. We have some areas set up in the high school that are an overflow, so things are going to be a little different. We have one more task to do before we get going. So in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 10, an assistant moderator shall be appointed to preside at each place of the meeting where the moderator is not physically able to be present. The assistant moderator shall serve all powers vested by the law in the moderator to preside at and regulate the proceedings in the meeting at which he presides, except that they shall not recognize any citizen desiring to address the meeting except after first obtaining permission of the moderator. So with that, I appoint Ms. Tina McAndrew of 70 Sherwood Hill Drive in Holden. Now we just have to have her sworn in.
Yep. Raise your right hand. Tina McAndrew, having been appointed to the position of Assistant Town Moderator in the Town of Holden, do you swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties of this appointment incumbent upon you to the best of your ability and understanding, according to the rules and regulations of the Constitution of the United States, the laws of this Commonwealth, and the bylaws of the Town of Holden, so help you God? Excellent. Thank you for serving. Go ahead, Dan. All right, I'm going to go.
Thanks. For the record, I have examined and found the call of the meeting in order. I will now ask the town clerk if this town meeting warrant has been duly posted.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, the warrant was posted on February 3rd.
Thank you. Now I invite you to please rise and face the flag if you are physically able as I lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. Is there a flag there? Sir? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So before we begin consideration of the substantive articles of the warrant, I'd like to take a moment to review some basic procedural matters that I've reviewed in the past. All motions to amend must be provided in writing, in duplicate, one copy to me and one copy to the town clerk before the motion to amend is made. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized or make your way to a microphone. This includes when you want to move a question or call a point of order. Do not shout from your seat. If you need assistance, we will bring a microphone to you. Only registered voters of Holden, non-resident Holden employees, or elected state officials may speak without permission of the hall. Every time you address the meeting, you must begin by slowly and clearly stating your name and address. All remarks and questions should be addressed to me, and then, if appropriate, I will recognize town staff or officials to answer your question. I just ask that everyone be respectful of this meeting, so that we can conduct the business at hand. Remember, we are all neighbors. Lastly, a brief word about decorum. A healthy respect for both sides of an argument is essential if we're to achieve the goals of acting in the best interests of our town this evening. We're a very small community. I remind everyone to treat each other with respect, treat each speaker that way. Remember, we're neighbors with courtesy and respect, no matter how strongly you may disagree. To that end, I will not allow any clapping, hissing, booing, or audible noises at any point while deliberating an article. It is in my powers as moderator to terminate the right to speak of anyone who makes disrespectful comments, whether directed at a voter, speaker, or town official. I would ask that everyone keep their remarks as brief as possible, as we may have 2 articles to get through this evening. Hopefully they're quick. Please do not reiterate what others have already stated. That'll make the evening go a lot faster. I will limit public comment to 3 minutes per person, and I will have the town clerk time them for us for each article. Lastly, just a few housekeeping items before we begin. Please turn off or mute your mobile devices. Everyone must be in a seat. I will not have anyone standing in the aisles or at their seats unless they've been called upon to speak. Bathrooms are located outside the auditorium. Once outside the auditorium doors, take a right. Fire exits are located both sides of the stage here. There's 2 in front and 2 in the rear. The same goes for the balcony. There's 2 emergency exits in the back. Now on to the business at hand. I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to the dedicated town officials, staff, and volunteers who have worked so diligently over the past year to help us be so prepared for this town meeting. After checking in and prior to entering the auditorium, there were documents on the tables for your taking. These include a QR code to the materials for Article 2. I think we printed enough. There was probably over 1,200 of them. We only have about 700 or 800 people here tonight, so you should have plenty, but there's a QR code for anyone that did not pick it up, and you can scan that on your phone, and you'll get both articles there for you. There's a limited number of packets available for that article. We also have, where are the other handouts? A sheet of paper called FAQs, Impact of the MBTA Communities Law Working Group Plan, looking like this, 2-sided. There is the special town meeting warrant, 2-sided. And then the special town meeting Article 2 information I just spoke about. So that should all be at the entrance outside. Technically, the moderator is required to read each article and all the related procedural documents to the hall verbatim. Since the warrant articles are available to you on the tables out back and on your phone, it has been customary that we adopt the practice of omitting the reading of the warrant by the moderator with the consent of the hall. Therefore, may I have a motion to dispense with the reading of each individual article as printed in the warrant? So moved. Do I hear a second? Seconded. So moved and seconded. This we will not use the clickers for. I think this is a pretty simple majority. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That passes more than a majority. Moving right along. Article 1. Ms. Wallace.
Good evening. I'm Donna Wallace, 167 Fox Hill Drive. I'm on the Finance Committee in Holden. The Finance Committee recommends, and I move, that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $200,000 from the town's general stabilization fund to pay for the design and construction of a connecting structure between the existing school building and the modular classroom units at the Dawson Elementary School, including any ancillary costs related thereto, said sum to be expended under the direction of the town manager.
Okay, do I hear a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Ms. Wallace?
I do.
Thank you.
This article authorizes the town to withdraw up to $200,000 from the General Stabilization Fund, otherwise known as our savings account, to supplement the $200,000 that voters appropriated at a prior town meeting. Bids for the construction project were significantly higher than expected, and therefore the initial $200,000 was not enough to complete the project last summer. We have to get this project done, and approving it tonight allows the town to get the project going as soon as school ends in June. The Finance Committee voted unanimously to recommend funding this additional cost from savings. Withdrawal from the General Stabilization Fund requires voter approval at town meeting.
Thank you. Anyone from the Select Board? Mr. Anzoni?
Good evening. Dawson families out there. We told you we'd get this done. Promises made, promises kept. I told you we have it in front of a town meeting well in advance of the end of school. The Board of Selectmen met at 6 o'clock tonight. We unanimously support Article 1.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this motion? Going to check with the cafeteria. You have anybody out there that can check? Don't run, I just... All right, I have somebody coming in who wants to speak to the motion.
Hi, Nancy Killinan, 8 Shays Lane. I just was curious, how much significantly more is this? You said more than the $200,000.
This is an additional $200,000. Town meeting passed at a previous town meeting. Sorry? $200,000. Is that a total now? $400,000 is expected to cover these costs. It's an additional $200,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. That was the only person from the auditorium. Nobody else? Sorry, from the cafeteria. Nobody else in the auditorium? Okay, we'll move to a vote. This requires a 2/3 to pass, so we will open the voting. Again, the green button, 1A, is a yes vote. The red button, 2B, is a no vote. So begin voting. Okay, voting is now closed. This motion passes by more than 2/3. 680 to 95. You good? Okay, Article 2. Ms. Belisle.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to approve Article 2 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, moved and seconded. We just have some AV issues. We have to swap the monitors. And then, Ms. Belisle, you have a brief presentation?
Yes, we do.
We are going to limit it to 15 minutes.
Yes, okay. I'd like to start by having members of the MBTA Communities Act Working Group introduce ourselves, and then I will proceed with the presentation. My name is Linda Long-Belil. I am Vice Chair of the Board of Selectmen, and I also am an attorney.
William Holmes, Select Board and Clerk of the Working Group.
Mary Jude Pigsley. I'm one of the 4 residents appointed to the committee by the Board of Selectmen. I am a retired attorney, and the last 25 years I spent at the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection.
I'm Victor Panak. I'm a resident of the town, and I've been a town planner for about 10 years, currently the planning director for the town of Millbury.
My name is Ken Strom. I'm a professional land surveyor. Worked for over 40 years as a land surveyor and civil engineer. Member of the Conservation Commission for 26 years, and board member of White Oak Land Conservation Society in town.
I'm Al Berg, professional engineer, 20-year member of the Finance Committee, and prior to that, 25 years as Holden's town engineer and public works director.
James Scorfus, town resident.
Elizabeth Brennan, town resident.
Thank you all. And I want to thank this work group. This work group has put hours and hours of time and effort into this plan, and it has really been a pleasure and a joy to collaborate with them on it. I also want to thank the town manager, and Ron Barron from the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, who helped us put this plan together. I also want to thank Jay Burnetta and his team for the audio-visual tonight, and Abby Benoit and Wendy Brulette in the office, who have posted and reposted and sent out agendas and have done tremendous work to make everything happen the way it should. So thank you to all. I'm going to start by just giving you some facts. Governor Charlie Baker signed the MBTA Communities Act into law in 2001, and its purpose was to increase housing supply in Massachusetts. It had strong bipartisan support. It was passed by the state Senate 40-0, and then also by the State House of Representatives 143-4. So I will now turn this over to Mary Jude Pigsley to give you some more of the details.
I'm just going to run through very quickly what the MBTA Communities Act requires and why we're talking about it in Holden tonight. The law requires Holden to adopt a zoning district. It does not require any specific project to be built. It just requires zoning. It does not require affordable housing, just in a zoned district to meet the density of 15 units per acre. The law applies to what are defined as MBTA communities, which are 177 communities throughout the Commonwealth that either have MBTA service or are adjacent to a community that has MBTA service, and Holden is adjacent to Worcester, which has an MBTA commuter rail station. Of 177 towns, 9 communities are out of compliance. Slide.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks. If the town does not comply, the statute identifies 4 major infrastructure grant programs that we are not eligible for: highways, bridges, water and sewer projects. The regulations list another 13 programs that we are not allowed to apply for or to get money from. And we have already been either rejected or told we could not apply for certain grants. On January 29th, on January 29th, the Attorney General of the Commonwealth filed a complaint against the 9 towns who are holdouts, and that lawsuit is filed in Superior Court in Boston, and she's asking the court to compel the towns to adopt zoning bylaws or such other relief as the court deems appropriate, which could consist of appointing a special master who would decide the zoning for those towns and basically override any local concerns by appointing a master to do that. Slide. It's important to know that in 2024, the Attorney General sued the town of Milton, and the town was out of compliance with the deadline at that time, and the town lost. So the Supreme Judicial Court, the highest court in the state, found that the Attorney General has authority to enforce the act. The law is constitutional. Other courts have decided that it does not constitute an unfunded mandate, and the courts have rejected challenges to the language of the regulations. Those arguments will not be persuasive in the lawsuit that is now pending in Boston Superior Court.
Thank you. So I wanted to give you some background on the MBTA Communities Act Working Group. Last year, you may recall that there was a plan presented at town meeting, and it did not prevail. So over the summer after that, I waited to see if perhaps another plan might be put forward, or exactly what was going to happen. And then when there was no plan put forward by the fall, I thought that it made sense to have citizens involved in putting forward a plan. I had gotten a lot of feedback. I got an earful from community members, from citizens, after the plan failed at the Maytown meeting. People told me that they had been confused about the plan. They had been confused about what we were voting on. Were we voting on accepting the plan? Were we voting to comply or not comply with the law? What were we voting on? So I thought, well, let's make sure that citizens are involved this time and that citizens know what is in the plan. So I proposed that we have a working group, and the Board of Selectmen approved the working group and established the working group on September 22nd, 25. And our charge was to develop a plan for compliance with the MBTA Communities Act, to get input from relevant boards and committees and town residents, and also to solicit feedback from and educate the public about the act and what it means for Holden. We had 2 members. The working group structure is to have 2 members of the Board of Selectmen, myself and William Holmes. 1 representative each from the Conservation Commission, that's Ken Strom, the Planning Board, and the Finance Committee. We also wanted to have 4 town residents, and so we had residents apply, and then the Board of Selectmen voted on the residents who would be part of the working group. We also had ex officio members, those are non-voting members, the town manager, the town planner, and our consultant from the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. There were we met weekly for several months, and we came up with a list of considerations, things we wanted to consider in putting together a plan. We know we can't completely eliminate any impact of an MBTA communities plan on the town and the residents, but we did what we could to minimize it. We wanted to preserve the look and feel of neighborhoods. We wanted to minimize traffic impact. Again, we understand that we can't completely eliminate traffic impact, but we did what we could to minimize it. We wanted to avoid zoning over existing single-family home neighborhoods. We'd heard concerns about that, people doing that, and the potential impact on neighborhoods. So we decided to avoid zoning over existing single-family home neighborhoods. We also wanted to avoid restricted and environmentally sensitive lands and minimize the impact on infrastructure and schools. We also wanted to avoid burdening a single neighborhood. We thought that was important. So what we did was we met weekly, as I said, and we identified and considered at least 20 locations all over town. And let me just say that the members of the MBTA Communities Working Group come from every region of town, which was really an important aspect of this process. We used the Holden GIS and also the state's interactive map to decide on parcels, and it wasn't easy. We held public meetings. We've had 3 community meetings, and we consulted with required town committees and organizations. All of our meetings were open. All of our meetings were recorded and are available online. I know some people have been looking at those and have appreciated the opportunity to see exactly what we discussed at each meeting. And again, we discussed the impact on existing neighborhoods, traffic, and schools. I'm going to now turn this over to our committee's town planner, Victor Panak.
Thank you, Linda. So over the next 2 slides, I want to briefly go over what zoning can do, what it can't do, and how that might relate to this proposal. So the first thing I want to note is that zoning does not guarantee development. It doesn't necessarily result in anything getting built. It only sets the rules about how a property may be used, and it doesn't, again, require any construction. The other thing, well, to that point, we specifically chose sites, the working group specifically chose sites that are extremely unlikely to be further developed, knowing that development pursuant to this proposal could have negative impacts on the town. So we specifically chose ones that were unlikely to see that development. The other thing I wanted to point out is that zoning is not, doesn't just regulate the use that can go on the property, it also includes a variety of limitations and regulations on how development can occur. So the zoning proposal in front of town meeting tonight includes things like a 200-foot setback from the street. So any development that might happen in the far future would be located far from the public way. It also includes height limitations, so buildings can't be taller than 35 feet, which is about 2.5 stories. And then the last point about zoning that I really want to emphasize is that zoning is not necessarily permanent. You can always adjust it in the future, and in this case, although we are establishing zoning specifically to meet a state act, we can still adjust that in the future as long as we remain compliant with the state law. Slide. The working group settled, and I think we settled on this very early on an overlay district, which is a specific type of zoning district that you put over the existing zoning. That means that the existing zoning does not go away. It remains in place, and the property owner can choose to develop their property pursuant to the existing zoning, or also known as the underlying zoning district, or the overlay zoning district. So this does not take away or override the rights of the existing properties. It just, the existing property owners, it just adds an additional option for them. So this is, in front of you is a map of the excluded areas. So this is a map that was provided to the town by the state. The MBTA Communities Act law includes various types of land that we cannot take into consideration or can't be used to meet the requirements of the law. In other words, the state doesn't want communities to essentially allow development in these areas or count it towards their compliance with the law. So the excluded lands, they're in gray on this map, and they include public land, water bodies, wetland resource areas and associated buffer areas, protected open space and recreational areas, water supply protection areas, land used for educational or institutional uses like hospitals, prisons, and public utilities. There's a few other categories. Essentially, what I want to emphasize here is that the working group had to find parcels that met the considerations that Linda highlighted, but also lay within, or primarily within, the white area shown on this map. So as you can see, a lot of the town were not areas that we could consider to identify the sites.
Now I'm going to turn it over to Ken Strom to start the discussion about the specific parcels.
As you see on the screen, the area outlined is the Halstead property, the apartments located on Salisbury Street, about 3/4 mile north of the Worcester line and roughly across from Fisher Road. Has an access driveway from Salisbury heading east through the site, and the access road does continue on to Newell Road, whence you can continue to South Main Street and then down into Worcester Grove Street. The 11-acre area shown here contains 3 buildings, each of which has 36 units. So there's 108 units represented within that overlay area. The overall Halstead property contains 192 apartment units and includes an additional 3 apartment buildings to the south, along with the appurtenant driveways and parking. Behind the 3 northerly buildings is a steep slope up to the residential properties on Cranbrook Drive. So raising those 3 buildings, if that was to be, if this was chosen, which lie basically within an 8-acre portion of the site, would be highly unlikely, as they contain about 13.5 units per acre as it is. Remaining developable area on the northwest, which is the north side of the driveway as you come in from Salisbury Street, represents an area of approximately 3 acres.
Mr. Strom and Ms. Belisle, that's been 15 minutes. How many slides do you have left?
We have the Trap Rock
Yes, and
exhibit.
then just a couple more slides after that.
Okay. Well, if you can be quick, please.
We'll do our best. Thank you.
The Trap Rock site located on North Main Street is 39 acres. I think the most instructive view is the right view with the red area outlined as a proposed zone, in which you'll see a number of green squiggly areas that are wetlands and streams where building would be restricted. And the lighter areas of that plan are an active quarry, in some cases up to 160 feet deep, so we've got a big hole on the property. One of the reasons this was chosen is because of the unlikelihood of it ever being built upon for multifamily housing or pretty much for anything else. For subsequent discussion, it would be very instructive for you to note that this proposed area, this red area, is not an abutter to Lilac Hedge Farm or vice versa. They're separated by a minimum of 200 feet up to about 800 feet at the northerly part of the site. The other thing it should note for subsequent discussion is that under current zoning bylaws, that is, if we do absolutely nothing tonight, this site could be used for building affordable housing with the approval of the planning board. This site could be used for retirement communities with the approval of the planning board. This site could be used for, believe it or not, daycare without approval by anybody. Not that anybody in their right mind would put it there. And it can be used for all religious uses. It could be used for churches. It could be used for church camps. It could be used for anything of a religious nature. So there are material reasons why both the current zoning and the proposed zoning are not all that different in terms of what might appear on this site at some point in the future. But we feel that that's a long ways off. The owners feel that they have decades and decades of active quarrying before they're interested in doing much of anything else with this site.
Yes, in fact, they have said on their website that they plan to supply crushed stone products from that quarry and the other quarry, quote, to our valued customers for decades to come. I just want to quickly address concerns about eminent domain that I've heard. Eminent domain and the MBTA, CA, the Communities Act are not related. If the state wanted to take these properties by eminent domain, they could just do it. It's in the U.S. Constitution, it's in state and federal law, and they would not need the MBTA Communities Act to do that. I've also heard concerns about insurance loss for Lilac Hedge Farm. I think that whoever mentioned that Lilac Hedge Farm could lose its insurance if the town added a zoning overlay. I think that whoever told the Lilac Hedge Farm family that could happen is likely misinformed. When I first heard this, I was very alarmed, very alarmed. I actually grew up on a farm myself, so I was very concerned about this. So I called the Massachusetts Division of Insurance and spoke with the head of property and casualty insurance. And what she told me was that insurers make decisions based on existing risks, not risks that do not exist at the time of the decision. And that this could potentially be, if they canceled the insurance, an unfair trade practice in the business of insurance under Mass General Laws, Chapter 176D. And if a complaint was filed, the Division of Insurance would be seriously interested in taking a look into it as part of an investigation. So, sorry. I want to just, I do want to emphasize that this plan does not require affordable housing. It does not require the town to invest in infrastructure. And we tried to make sure there were alternative routes to the highway. I know also there are concerns among parents about flooding especially the Dawson School with kids. That is very unlikely to happen. We all know that there's a decrease in the birth rate. We all know that there are more kids being homeschooled and being sent to private school since COVID. So this is the latest information about estimates for school enrollment. And you can see that it's going to likely go up for the next year or so, and then it's going to drop precipitously. This is not going to cause a big flood of kids into the schools. We looked at the number of kids generated by the 192 units at Halsted, and we found that Halsted only sends 16 kids out of 192 units to Dawson School. So that's 0.08 kids per unit, just so you know. And I've already done the math for you, so I can tell you that what that would result in if we built the 64 units that could potentially, but won't likely be, built at Halsted, that results in 5.333 kids for the Dawson School. So especially since it's very likely that enrollment will decline, that will not flood the schools.
Ms. Belisle, it's been 20 minutes now.
Okay, all right, I have, let's see.
No, listen, we're at 21 minutes, so.
Okay. So there was more I wanted to tell you, But since we need to end, I will say that we can change this plan, as Mr. Panak mentioned. It's not all said and done now, but if we change the plan tonight, we can avoid more legal fees. We can make a new plan without a lawsuit. We can make a new plan without a lawsuit.
What is your point of order? Excuse me, Ms. Blau.
You're originally allowed 15 minutes. It's now been well over 20.
Yes, you finished? Thank you. No clapping, please. We're going to move on. Anyone from the Select Board wish to speak to this?
I do, Mr. Moderator. As mentioned earlier, the Board of Selectmen met at 6 o'clock tonight to take positions on these two warrant articles. This article was voted in favor by a vote of 3-2 to support Article 2, with myself and Karin not supporting it. The argument was made to the Board of Selectmen that the working group worked really hard, and I thank them for their hard work, and that's why we should support this. I tried to make the point, I was unsuccessful, that you know who else worked really hard? Is the farmer right here for 10 years. He worked really hard. It didn't sway any opinions. End of the day, the Board of Selectmen voted to support this 3-2.
Thank you. I'm going to call on the report of the Planning Board. Mr. George?
And good evening. A brief report and recommendation from the Planning Board. On January 13th, 2026, the Holden Planning Board held a duly scheduled public hearing to consider zoning bylaw text and map amendments that meet the requirements of the MBTA Zoning Act. After considering the text and map amendments, the board closed the public hearing. Then, on a motion to make a favorable recommendation to town meeting, the board voted 2-2.
What was that again? 2-2?
That's correct.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak relative to the motion?
Ryan McKay, 106 Bond Road. I'm the 5th generation of McKays to live in Holden, with a 6th on the way. I am here to speak for our future. 10 years ago, I bought 106 Bond Road with a vision to build a forever home and a legacy. Since then, I've invested a decade of labor and nearly $1 million into our east pasture. 75 acres we cleared, seeded, and fenced by hand. Today, that vision is under threat. The proposed zoning changes under the MBTA Communities Act would place high-density housing abutting our livestock pastures, making our farm professionally and financially unattainable. The reality of the risk, this isn't just about development, it's about survival. Feed and income. This pasture provides 60% of the feed for our herd. 80% of our farm's income relies on the animals raised right here. Without them, our entire 500-acre operation collapses. Insurance. I've heard the myth that we can just find another insurance provider, or insurance hikes are built into your business model. Let me be clear, that is false. Farm insurance is specialized and extremely limited. We already exhaust our options yearly. Let me be clear, you cannot run a farm with 100 mature, 1,500-pound cows and multiple bulls next to an apartment complex just yards away. It's a risk no provider will take. My start in agriculture began right here in Holden at age 13. There was a Christmas tree farm behind my grandparents' dairy. When it was sold to a developer, I asked permission of the developer, and my grandfather and I hooked up a trailer to his old tractor. We took that cart road across the brooks and wetlands, up a steep hill to harvest the Christmas trees. Today, that tree farm is Jordan Road off of Salisbury Street. I mention this because people say that Trap Rock land is unfeasible to build on. They likely would have said the same thing about Jordan Road. It had no town sewer or water. It had wetland crossings and the same steep slopes and soil types as the site we are discussing tonight. If they could build 55 homes there years ago, a developer can and will build hundreds of units on Trap Rock now. As Drew Forrest, the owner of Holden Trap Rock, said, if it is zoned, it will be built. I am not a NIMBY neighbor, and I am not here to debate the MBTA Act itself, but I have to ask, why were landowners and abutters never notified? Why haven't we looked at other options like overlaying existing commercial developments where purchasing the land is much more difficult for developers? My character and timing have been questioned for not raising the concern sooner, but the truth is simple. I was never notified. While these plans were moving forward, I spent the last year serving as the National Young Farmers Chair for the American Farm Bureau Federation, representing 6 million families across the country as the voice of agriculture. This is my life's work. Had I or any of the affected landowners been given the courtesy of a notice, there is no question I would have been at the very first meeting to protect the land. Why is my farm's future and Holden's agricultural heritage the one being sacrificed? We aren't asking to stop progress. We are simply asking to go back to the drawing board and follow the appropriate notification processes. Please help me ensure the next generation of McKays has the same opportunity I have had to steward this land. Thank you to the community and my team for the support, and I urge a no vote tonight.
No, please, please. Thank you. Yes, I apologize. You three were lined up before you, so is it okay if I take them first? You okay with that? Okay, thank you.
Jim Dunn, 199 Muskpog Road. Mr. Moderator, with your permission, I'd like to read a statement from my neighbor, Drew Forrest, the owner of the Holden Trap Rock.
Since he's the owner of the property under question, I will allow that.
Thank you. My family's company has been in business for 5 generations since 1908, and we have operated in Holden since 1938. For nearly 90 years, we have worked side by side with Holden Police, Fire, DPW, and town government to help build and maintain this community. 2 weeks ago, I received a phone call from a reporter asking for a comment on the town's plan to rezone 50 acres of my family's land for a massive multifamily housing district. That phone call from the reporter was the first time I heard about the town's plan to rezone my family's land. Despite the town holding multiple committee meetings and planning for months, we were never notified. No letter, no phone call, no conversation. The committee insists that this was just paper compliance and these units will never be built. To be clear, if our land is zoned for high-density development, these units will be built. While I have no intention of selling, once the zoning is in place, the path is cleared for the inevitable. Whether it is politicians using eminent domain for public good, immense political pressure from the state, or developers backed by legislation forcing a deal that cannot be refused, if this zoning passes, the legal barrier is gone. It is no longer a question of if these units will be built, but when. How can a committee properly assess the economic and neighborhood impact of rezoning when the committee didn't even bother to contact the business and neighbors most directly affected? Again, no letter, no phone call, no conversation. They are downplaying the devastating impacts that this proposal will have on my business and the local businesses and neighborhoods around us. Please vote no. Thank you.
Hi, Bob Levine, 129 Cannon Road. Listen, I came up here in May when we talked about this before and asked for the Finance Committee to give us a funding study, an impact analysis, and we were told we didn't have one. And we're sitting here again today, and we still don't have one. We don't know how we're going to pay for any of this. My background is in compliance. I'm a chief compliance officer of one of the largest U.S. investment firms in the world, okay? I spent 30 years in compliance. I'm probably one of the handful of people in this room that's an expert in this, okay? I'm telling you, there is no such thing as paper compliance. You have to comply with the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And the spirit of this law is not zoning. You heard Ms. Belil say it. The intent Governor Baker had was to build houses, not to zone, okay? We zone this, it will get built. Second to that, after seeing the zoning overlay for the first time, I don't even think it's in compliance with the letter of the law, because the law actually states that you can't zone something that you knowingly is on a watershed and can't build on. So we're already out of compliance with it. My thought on this is, it doesn't matter what working group got a wink and a nod from the state saying this is okay. I was on the select board for 11 years. The state is a horrible business partner, okay? They lied to us when they told us they were going to give us 100% of our funding for our school buses. Maybe we got 70%. They came in and they helped us build a new Mount View, and then they told us, no, 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 we know better. And they built it at capacity on day one with no room for scale, okay? We wanted to redo our own Main Street. They said, it's not your Main Street, it's our state highway. And guess what? Now we've got bike lanes and traffic like you read about, right? This is not a business model. My advice is we go back, we say no to this, we ask Finance Committee to do their job and come back with an actual financial plan around how we're going to fund this and get things that are actually in compliance, because if we're trying to keep traffic at a minimum going through Main Street, putting it on the north side of town is not going to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, you three were in line before her. Thank you for that.
Good evening.
For waiting.
Rachel McKay, 106 Bond Road. Many of you know me as a second grade teacher here in Holden, and as last year's tenant of one of the modulars, I want to start by thanking this community for the support you show our schools every day. I'm here tonight as Ryan's wife, a teacher, and as someone currently carrying the 6th generation of McKays. I'm not here to talk about zoning maps or MBTA mandates. I'm here to talk about what it actually looks like to build a life and a family on a farm. Every day I see the values we want to pass on to our son: hard work, resilience, and a deep respect for the land. But that future feels incredibly fragile right now. When we talk about high-density housing abutting our livestock pastures, we aren't just talking about a change in the view. We're talking about the safety of our animals and the children who live next to them. Ryan mentioned the technical side of the east pasture, but from my perspective, that land is the heartbeat of our operation. If that pasture becomes unworkable, the domino effect doesn't just hit our bank account. It hits our ability to stay here, it hits the legacy we promised to the next generation, it affects every single one of the nearly 100 staff members and families that Ryan employs. We aren't anti-progress. As a teacher, I see the need for growth and community every day, but progress shouldn't come at the cost of destroying a 5-generation family business simply because a lack of thoughtful planning or proper notice. If only proper notice had been provided early on, all of this could have been prevented. We are asking you to look past the next 5 years and look at the next 50. Please vote no so we can go back to the drawing board and find a path that moves Holden forward without leaving its heritage and its family farmers behind. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no problem. I think everybody should be patient, and I'm grateful for the time. My name is Leanne Scales. I'm at 21 Avery Road in Holden. I want to thank the committee for their work. I want to thank the select board for their careful deliberation. And I want to say that I think in Holden, we can support family farms and we can support business growth in our community, and we can also focus on the facts. I am a fan of Lilac Hedge Farm. I've shopped there, I've purchased there. It's one of my favorite parts of Holden. But I think we need to be clear-eyed, and I think we need to be focused on the facts. I've heard that there wasn't enough notice given, and yet I hear that there were so many public meetings. I'm not a huge consumer of social media news and other news, but I have heard about this MBTA issue coming for a long time and had plenty of opportunity to learn about it. I think we all have had that opportunity. And for folks who are concerned about the schools, I spent my career in enrollment management in higher education, and I can promise you every college in 20 miles of where we're sitting is panicked that there are not enough people entering our education systems. So I think that is something that we can put to bed. I am asking everyone here to just be clear-eyed. We're not voting tonight on the livelihood of a farm. We are voting tonight on an act that we are required to take on something that has already harmed the town by loss of funding and finance. We have a great deal to lose as a community if we don't vote yes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sir?
Hi, Eric Danishevsky. I live in Winthrop Lane. I wasn't planning on speaking, but after hearing all of the support for no, I just wanted to come and say vote yes, because think about the future as well. It's already been stated here that we're losing funding, we're losing grants. What does that mean for the future for what we can accomplish as a town? We're going to have to pay higher taxes to make up for that? Is that what people want, just to pay more? And then again, if we vote no and we just don't go through it and we say we want to go back to the drawing board and do all this, then we'll just be found out of compliance and we'll get a special master. And since the state already said that they approved this plan, guess what they're going to do? Go with this plan. So if we can maintain control, even if it's just through this vote, then we can actually control the direction this heads. So maybe we don't like where it is now, but we can as a community come together and do something about it and not just give it to whoever in Boston. So vote yes. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
First off, we have to support our local farmers and our local farms, so I think that's top priority. And I do have some questions.
What's your name and address?
I'm sorry?
Name and address?
I'm sorry, I thought I said John Dredone, 9 Settlers Lane.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear that.
A couple of questions. One in your points, it says there will be no increase in students going to our schools. What was the reason why we added those 2 classrooms on the Dawson Creek School in the first place? We just decided tonight we're going to spend $400,000 to annex them. What are the alternative plans if there is an increase? First question. Second question is, what if you're wrong about the traffic studies? I can't go down Main Street most of the day because it's bumper to bumper. Imagine 760 more units. Third question is, what are your alternative plans to solve that? And my last question is about taxes. What are the alternative plans if there are to be tax increases? Until those are answered, until we have the finances, I really think this is a no vote tonight. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Ms. Levine, would you like to answer those questions?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, thank you.
As I mentioned, based upon the number of kids who come from the 192 units at Halsted, if you do the math, you find that the number of kids who would come from these new units is 5.333. If these new units were ever built, which frankly I think is highly unlikely. And the traffic, again, I know that folks in Jefferson, when they want to get to the highway, they tend to go down Mount Pleasant to Quinnipiac. We had a member of the work group who was from Jefferson, and she said that that's how people get there. I'm not saying that there's going to be no impact on traffic. We just tried to minimize it, that's all. And I want to get to this issue about and what was, your third question was, I'm trying to remember, sorry. Taxes. So these buildings, I'll just go back to this for a second. These buildings are very, very valuable. And in FY 2026, Halsted's, this year, Halsted's total bill is $567,189. That's a huge amount of money. And looking at the 2024 figures, which were the last ones I had access to, it outweighed the amount of money that we pay for our schools. So taxes, and several studies, according to the Pioneer Institute, which is a somewhat right-leaning institute, they concluded that additional property tax and other revenues from multifamily development usually fully compensate for the local costs. So I think it'll be washed if anything is ever built, which, again, we chose these because they are highly unlikely to be built on. They are highly unlikely to be built on. And I understand.
One more question, please.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Can the state refuse these properties because they can't be built on?
They have actually approved a lot of sites in other towns that have that cannot be built on. Okay. And in fact, we did put it up for pre-review. We submitted it for pre-review, and they said that they had some technical. I'm trying to find the slide, but they said we had some technical things we had to change. We had to change the word guidance to regulations. We had to put something in a column instead of a row. Extraordinarily mind-numbing legalese kinds of changes that we had to make. So
the state still hasn't approved these two sites?
they have told us that it would put us in a good position if adopted. That's what they've said, which is as much as they will say. It's basically saying, wink, wink, nod, nod, we're going to approve it if you submit it.
Yeah, I'm from the government. I'm here to help. I heard that. All right, thank you. Okay,
sure.
thank you.
I'd like to address a couple of other things, if I may, Mr. Moderator.
No, that's out of order. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Tyler Fisher of 106 Bond Road. I grew up on Alta Vista Farm in Rutland, which we purchased in 2024. I came to live at Lilac Hedge in 2016, shortly after Ryan bought the property. Back then, there wasn't much there but open ground and a vision. We lived in an office trailer with no running water, showering at the gym just to get by, but I saw what this could become. For the last decade, I haven't just watched that vision become a reality. We've built it up as a family. For years, we spent working with the National Research Conservation Service to design a rotational grazing system. Our farm team has hand-picked the rocks from these fields, seeded the pastures, dug miles of frost-free water lines, and pounded thousands of fence posts into these grounds. We specifically expanded the east pasture by 50 acres along the hillside because it was ideal for cattle, even though the terrain was too rugged for hay equipment. From 122A, you might just see a green field, but I see 10 years of specialized infrastructure that cannot simply be moved or replaced. Supporting the MBTA overlay at the Trap Rock site will render these fields we have spent a decade nurturing and investing in, completely unusable. Zoning to approve and encourage the placement of high-density housing here turns our working infrastructure into a liability. If you believe in protecting working farms in Holden and supporting local staples like Lilac Hedge and Holden Trap Rock, I urge you to vote no. Don't let 10 years of backbreaking work be undone by a map drawn out without even stepping on foot on the soil or notifying these that lived here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Levine.
Bob Levine, 129 Cannon Road. Just again, 650 units going down Pleasant and Quinnipoxet is still 650 cars going down Quinnipoxet. And with that, Mr. Moderator, I move the question.
Thank you. Second.
All right, motion has been made to move the question and seconded. This actually stops debate, and we have to vote on that. And it requires two-thirds vote.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes, so what you're going to vote on right now is a motion to move the question. What that means is that we will stop debate. So if you pass this with a two-thirds vote, the debate is stopped and we've moved back to voting on the article. So right now you're just voting on moving the question forward. Everybody understand that? Okay. And it requires a two-thirds vote. And with that, I'll open the votes.
Oh, did you make something?
So a yes vote stops debate, and we move forward to the original motion and we vote on that.
Can we wait for 1 second because it says initiate community, so we need to create that question to move this?
Okay, my apologies. We're going to just recreate this here. So we're going to scratch this because it still says MBTA communities up there. So we're going to create another vote, and then we'll vote to move the question so it's clear to everybody. We're just going to type it out to say move the question. And again, a yes vote means you're passing the fact that you're moving this to the original motion, and then we'll vote on the original motion. So yes vote to move the question. Yes vote means you're going to move
yes.
to, and
so
means debate's done.
Did you change it?
No, it's not changed yet. So again, just for clarity, as we set this up, a yes vote means we end debate and we move to the original motion we'll be voting on. If this is defeated and it's a no vote, if you vote no, that means we're going to continue debate at this point.
Nice job. Yay.
Okay, so now it's ready. I'll open the votes. Again, 1A is a yes vote, 2B is a no vote. that is not wrong. We are moving the question. So this is what we're voting on. We're voting on moving the question, which means that it will terminate the debate and we'll move on to the article vote. A no vote means we will continue the debate. Okay, I will close voting. Voting is now closed.
Oh, yeah.
690 to 78.
Yeah.
Okay, so now back to the original motion, and we will. Okay, we're putting the vote on this article back up there, and it's a simple majority to pass.
Second,
Just give us a second to put the motion back up there, and once it's open, I'll let you know. Yes. So a yes vote on this. I'll repeat the motion on the original article. The original motion is, I move that the town vote to amend the town's zoning bylaw as set forth in Article 2. So a yes vote passes Article 2, a no vote does not pass that article. Make sense? And it's up, we're good?
Yep.
Okay. Open the vote. All right, I will close the voting. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody. At this time, do I have a motion to dissolve? Move to adjourn, dissolve. Will you take dissolve? Move to dissolve is seconded. All those in favor, aye. Opposed? Okay, in favor. Thank you.